Begin audio prompt in 3,
2, 1.
That's right, baby. We're doing FNAF 6 or FNAF Pizzeria Simulator. How are you? I hope you're all having a morning, I hope you are having a fantastic morning, evening, or night. This is like my third time recording the intro. Let's hope we get it down this time. But yeah, with that being said, let's kind of just hop right into it. Ignore this wall. Trust me, it has a purpose. Okay, it's there. So here's the actual, the pizzeria sign I decided to go for. There was an alternate sign, which I'm gonna pull that up real quick. It was this one. So there was this sign, which again I could really be like swayed by either, but I really like this one more. It's just I don't know. It's just a weird aqua color. Cause here's what I decided to go for, like my walls and stuff. Here's the inside walls and stuff, and also the floor, which you probably see a lot better here. This is just like a combination of stuff. Yeah, I did like throw in a lot more mods this time around, so there are just a lot more here. But this is the stairwell, like the wall and floor, which again we will be sure to get to that within the actual blueprints of the video as well as the tour. As we go over here, excuse me, these are actually the vents and stuff. So that is the vent wall as well as the vent floor, which again the furnace will be in play. And if you know already, you know what happens. And yeah, with that being said, let's get into the cast. See, this light was on. So I recorded the intro and I was gonna do a giant bam, and I actually thought about it this time and it worked. But it's fine. So here you have your cast. You have Rockstar Freddy, Rockstar Bonnie, Rockstar Chica, and Rockstar Foxy, as well as Lefty. So he's like your whole Rockstar group. Then you have Pig Patch, Happy Frog, Orville Elephant, Mr. Hippo, and Ned Bear, like your mediocre melodies, as well as L Chip and Chester the Chimp. Which L Chip, he's trying to he's part of Pizzeria Posh. He's like his whole crew just isn't here, so I really thought he fits really well with like the whole mediocre melodies as well. And honestly, I'm not lying. Chester, he was supposed to be within. Sorry, he was supposed to be within my. He was supposed to be now within my Fredbear's Family Diner video, but I just kind of forgot to include him. And afterwards, I was like looking at it. I'm like, oh, he was supposed to have a spot here. Then I'm like, it's fine. He'll be included somewhere. Again, I think it's just like the whole animal theme, fits. Then you have your vent people, aka Scrap Trap, Molten Freddy, Scrap Baby, and as well as Scrap Sparky. But this is just actually Withered Sparky, but didn't know he existed whenever I did my FNAF 2 video. Either I forgot he existed or he just did not exist, because I know I updated a lot of these mods and stuff. But yeah, and then we also have Helpy. So I know again custom build. So I added my two, which is Chester and Sparky, and I'm pretty sure I got rid of Funtime Chica and Music Man, but they were in my FNAF sister location video. So yeah, that's where they're going. But yeah, here's your cast. Again, FNAF 6 I think has the overall the biggest roster, like just overall. I'm pretty sure the only one that comes close is FNAF 2, but even then I think that FNAF 6 takes it. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into the blueprints. Hey guys, so welcome here. The blueprint Ben here speaking. So this is very very similar to like my Circus Baby's Pizza World as well as my Fredbear's Family Diner, to where I had to make my own location. Like I basically like nothing to go off of, because if you look within the game itself is just one giant box where you can put stuff in. So I really just had to make my own. So if you look at the bottom, that is the entrance, and if you look up into that is the main room. I will say, where you see those two smaller stages at, I switched the small stage over to the left side wall, and I made it bigger. That's just an in-game change I decided to make at like the very end. But yeah, so if you look, you're in the main party room where there's gonna be 2 stages with many animatronics. I think it's like 6 or so. But if you look to your right, that's where you have the kitchen as well as the arcade, which the arcade in this just really has all of the little like mini games you can play, such as the ball pit mini game, the hoops mini game, the little duck pond, just that just that kind of nature of stuff. Then if you go back to the main room and look up, that's where you would get the employee break room as well as the backstage. So sorry, I don't know why my like speech is just bad today. But anyway, the backstage is not accessible from the actual like stage this time because of how it's built. So you have to go, through the employee break room, out, and then you have to go into that door, and you have to go into the backstage. And if you actually go out the backstage, there's gonna be a giant, red exit door, and that's would lead to the alleyway, which is the alleyway is right by the kitchen, right by the backstage where there's just like scraps of metal and stuff and trash everywhere. Yeah. But if you go back out into like the main, big room, and if you go down the hallway, you would hit. If you go up, if you take the immediate first right, you would hit the interrogation room or like the salvage room. Because I just excuse me, I just imagine that it would be a lot easier to drag an animatronic like 2 rooms over instead of like all the way down the stairs and stuff. So yeah, if you look and if you just go like straight ahead from there, you get the boys and girls bathroom or both just like gender neutral bathrooms. Again, they're exactly the same. There's not much difference. Then if you go out and again, if you go further down into the hallway, you get party room 1 as well as party room 2, which both rooms hold 3 animatronics. And yeah, that is basically the upstairs pizzeria portion. And if you look towards the end of the hallway, you see how that little divot's out still. That was actually a staircase that has a door to it, and you head downstairs to the basement. And speaking of the basement, here's the basement. So with that being said, the basement just looks. If you probably like look up FNAF Pizzeria Simulator vents, this is the exact image that will pop up. So yeah, it's just as Henry describes it. It's just corridors, a labyrinth, just boxes and hallways, just and again, it's just a very very plain, simple. It's a loop. I didn't put no like giant middle box. It's just very very simple, very box like, and yeah, those are the blueprints. That being said, I will see you guys for the tour. Hello, boys, girls, and hi. I know this is like the actual tour part, but for me, it's been probably 5 or 6 days. So if I, sound a bit different, I do apologize for that. But I do want to say Happy Easter. I know that again, I was just like pumping out videos basically every day, every 2 days, pretty much. I did decide to take a bit of a break. I will admit, I was slightly burnt out from it. But now we're back. I'm trying something a little bit different here. But I do want to wish you all a happy Easter. I know that recently came up for me. Currently, that was 4 days ago. So I know I've been a bit, busy. I think it's probably been 5 or 6 days, probably more around a week since I've, even like touched this project. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into this video. Or let's get into, the tour. Sorry, it feels like an intro for me. So here's the outside. I will say there's not really anything to look at besides get that out here, the sign and stuff. But let's get into it. So here's the entrance. The entrance, actually, this light controls all the lights. So if you look at here and like how it's dark and stuff, this controls all the lights from here into the arcade as well. So you have, of course, your chairs, You got your little entrance desk. Sorry, I don't even know how to do a tour anymore. Then you have some snacks, water, trash cans, just like your very your very basic entrance. Here is the main party room, which actually we will skip this part right now. Here's the arcade. We have the prize king as well as egg baby. Then you have the ball pit, the little basketball hoop game. You have the a little pond of ducks and stuff. All these are from the actual game, including egg baby and prize king. You then have the two arcade machines, Midnight Motorist as well as Fruity Maze. Sorry if I'm rushing this. I don't know. It seems like I'm rushing. But, FNAF 6 is actually my all-time favorite location. So I'm trying to get this video out at least within 9 or 10 days. Besides that, I think it's actually all the FNAF 6 stuff within the arcade. I also decided to put in the FNAF 2 carousel. Then of course you just have all your actual arcade games. You have your trash can. It's I feel like I don't know. I feel like that this pizzeria is very more animatronic oriented than arcade and games and stuff. But that being said, hold on. Let's get. I also forgot. I actually almost forgot. You actually have fruit punch clown as well as lemonade clown, I think. Yeah. Then you have your kitchen, which this is a really weird design for me. I normally put an island and leave a side blank or something like that. But I don't know. I feel like again this was more used as a fake pizzeria, but it still had to make money somehow. So I feel like these are just frozen pizzas. Pop them in the oven and take them all out. Yeah, this is just a very basic. This is a lot more modern with all your cheese machines, your fridge, your deep fryers. I also use these actual FNAF 6 deluxe wall pizzas for the kitchen. Just makes sense. Yeah. So now we have the main party room. Which here you actually have your core 4 Rockstar animatronics with Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. And actually, cool trick that I wanted to do, if you turn off all the lights, the animatronics themselves will still have their own little lights on stage glowing. If we come around to this side, we do have the amazing we have the amazing Lefty as well as Orville. Actually, it probably should be the amazing Orville and Lefty. But the reason why I put Orville here is because, as I stated before, I had an odd amount of animatronics. I was just gonna do 3 and 3 and probably put Lefty there. But then I decided to add Chester and El Chip, and I'm like, well, it just makes Orville is the most the most expensive one out of the bunch, so I decided to put him here. I actually really like how these stages came out. They look almost exactly like the actual video game one, where they're very square. You have the wire coming in from the speaker. I like these little iron bars. These are probably not probably create mod, but are they part of Chisel? I don't know if they're Chisel, but they're part of one of these mods. I think it's probably this one that makes the most sense. Blocks you need. And yeah, you have a different cake on each table. You have some neon party sets. I did want to use the deluxe this is the deluxe main stage with the deluxe tables. Because if you look at the actual game, you can upgrade your tables and plates and stuff. So yeah, here you have a little supply thing with a little pan stand plush where there are actually no statues of all of trash in the gang. So I decided to put the plushies around. Here's the employee's office. We have some snacks, some drinks, coffee, water. Then you have your tables. You have some drawings and stuff. You have actual work papers. I said paper pals here. Yeah, this is a very cozy, chill space. If you come back here, you actually have the backstage, which has some spare batteries, some spare guitars, some parts, some cleaning supplies. You have a number 1 crate. We have some spare stage bars. just you have some spare speakers. And if you come out here, you actually have the outside, which this is where, well, this is the quote unquote alleyway where like you would come here and find a different animatronic each night, just like hanging out right here, looking like half dead. And if you come back here, you actually have some just dumpsters and stuff. But yeah, this is the outside. I will say I've now also recorded this intro twice within the span of like 10 minutes because the very very first intro I had hiccups so bad. So like here are your bathrooms, which just have your basic bathroom. I actually like these bathrooms. I think these are honestly the best bathrooms that I made so far. You have a stall, you have the sink with some just a soap. Each and around, you dry your hands, throw it away, or yeah. And it's the exact same on this side, like the exact same. Yeah, bathrooms. If you come over here, you actually have your salvage room, only because again I figure it's much easier to drag an animatronic to here than I have to go all the way downstairs, which where I put everything. Here's where you would do the whole begin audio tape in 3, 2, 1, or something like that. Sorry for that noise. I don't know why I decided to do that. It felt right. Then you mark it on your checklist. For here, I will say I did just decide to put the redstone thing because I know in the actual game I want to look as real as possible for the intro. But here's party. Actually, let's start. I'm pretty sure this is party room A. We have Pig Patch, Happy Frog, and Chester the Chimp. Which again, I decided to put these ones together because main the lead singer, banjo player. I imagine that this is an actual guitarist, just more like a country rock band. And if you actually see, you have these moderate stage blocks. I have the moderate tables as well as the not so pricey speakers. Yeah, I don't know. I like it how everything fits it. I did do this little star pattern because I imagine again every location that Henry has been a part of. So have all these little star party rooms. Yeah, I don't know. I like it. Over here you have Ned Bear, Mr. Hippo, and El Chip, which I imagine again I imagine a main singer, backup singer, and banjo guy. I also just imagine sometimes Mr. Hippo will be the only one active, and these two will be asleep or something, and he's out here telling stories to all the more calmer kids. But yeah, here's the main ground pizzeria. Here's what all the customers see. If you come back here, here's where you get that basement. Which, if you can't tell, this is the wall I used for it, the staircase. And yeah. So here's where you would go and order all your supplies and stuff at the end of the night. You'd come here, you open up your monitor, which you actually see me. I did put here's the actual camera mod at work. I did decide to put it here because why not? But I did also decide to put these vents here. I did try to make this location as accurate as looking as I could with what I had to work with, the stages and stuff. I like how this came out, except it would be a small helpy up there, but there was no small helpy, so I decided to put this guy, and I feel like he still works here. But if you come this way, you have your vent systems, which you have the little furnace floor. Now I will say Scrap Baby is also down here as well as up there. There's not two of them. It's just I kind of forgot to remove one of them, being the one upstairs. That's kind of my bad. But yeah, we have a Scrap Baby here as well as these little speakers, which the speakers are for the ending, which if you don't know is Henry just kind of talking to all the animatronics, saying goodbye, peace out. Here's where I decided to put whether it's Sparky, and I'm just kind of gonna more or less run through these rooms because of how they're organized, because they are just more or less the exact same. There's just wires everywhere inside of this metal box. And you have these ones. You keep coming down here, you have just the room. Come here. Here's where we have Mr. Afton himself, who comes from this side, above his little audio lower. Yeah, he's missing his arm. He's all grayed-eyed, and yeah, again, just very basic vent system. It shouldn't be anything too special, you know. And it looks like, where's Molten? Well, if you come right here, here's Molten. I actually think he looks a lot creepier like this, which like this is such a cool shot to have. It's just like in the dark. I really do like. I actually really like. I'm pretty sure it's Molten and one other person, Glow. I don't know who it is. I'd have to go back and check. But yeah, let's do the outro here. So guys, that's just FNAF 6. I hope you all enjoyed. And with that being said, I will have a great morning, evening, or night, whatever it shall be for you, and I will catch you guys on the flip side. Ta-ta. Let's get out of here. This place creeps me out. Door, please. Henry, you think you can maybe open up this door for me? What is that sound?
You played right into our hands. Did you really think that this job just fell out of the sky for you? No. This was a gift for us. You gathered them all together in one place, just like he asked you to. All of those little souls in one place, just for us. A gift. Now we can do what we were created to do and be complete. I will make you proud, Daddy. Watch, listen, and be full.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name. But I'm afraid you've been misinformed. You are not here to receive a gift, nor have you been called here by the individual you assume, although you have indeed been called. You have all been called here, into a labyrinth of sounds and smells, misdirection and misfortune. A labyrinth with no exit, a maze with no prize. You don't even realize that you are trapped. Your lust for blood has driven you in endless circles, chasing the cries of children in some unseen chamber, always seeming so near, yet somehow out of reach. But you will never find them. None of you will. This is where your story ends. And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be. I am remaining as well. I am nearby. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. And to you monsters trapped in the corridors, be still, and give up your spirits. They don't belong to you. For most of you, I believe there is peace, and perhaps more, waiting for you after the smoke clears. Although for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, friend. My daughter, if you can hear me, I knew you would return as well. It's in your nature to protect the innocent. I'm sorry that on that day, the day you were shut out and left to die, no one was there to lift you up into their arms, the way you lifted others into yours. And then, what became of you? I should have known you wouldn't be content to disappear. Not my daughter. I couldn't save you then, so let me save you now. It's time to rest, for you, and for those you have carried in your arms. This ends, for all of us, in communication.